All right, welcome everyone to the first fall rep wrap. My name is Jeff Olson. For those of you who don't know me, uh, Mr. Dr. Mitra Ray is my wingman, Dougie B. He's on the phone, audio only today, and we're pinch hitting for Yoda, as I call her, Mitra. She's off doing yoga in Italy today, so send some good vibrations over to her. The topic for today, we're welcome to the fall, the harvest. We like to call it the seasons of our business. I've spoken to a lot of you over the course of the summer doing events and paychecks, maybe an ebb and activity ebb and attendance soften and a bit of frustration around kind of that momentum. And here's the sort of the conversation around that. You're not a unicorn. You're not unique. Your story is just one of thousands.
Jeff,
yeah?
underneath participants, I think you can click mute all because we're having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, got it. Mute all. There we go. Yes. And if you want to unmute yourself, you can just unmute yourself manually. So I think that's probably better. So as I was mentioning, we're transitioning from summer to fall. And I think around the country, there's a lot of regional events kicking off here in September. And then in October, we've got, the big show, the national conference. And we've got some people that are going to share today just on their personal growth, their journey around promoting for events. But it is probably one of the most important skill sets. I know Jeff Roberti, I was with him in June. And promoting for events was what he mastered. He mastered promoting for events around the business, and he was one of the best in the industry at it. And he sees the national conference as probably one of the biggest tools in your toolkit to help transform and open up people to a new possibility in their life. And so as we transition from summer to fall, the mind shift is the calendar of events and what I call the big rocks. So if you've got fall regionals, locally, we've got a big event coming up this weekend here in Denver. I know there's things going on in the Northwest, but around the country, September is really a time where we re-engage, start putting things on the calendar. And as that is for you, so it is for the people, that you're speaking to and the people you're trying to engage and enroll. The calendar kind of comes back into play. And so what I'd like to do is get everyone thinking about Indy, get everyone thinking about, a number in your brain on how many people you're bringing to Indy. I can remember, when Tony and I first started out, we were hustling, we were scrappy, we were, income was lean. We would room with 4, 5, 6 people. We'd bring sleeping bags. We would, go to the grocery store and chip in on food. And it was that hustler sort of mindset, and we made it fun, right? And so the big show coming in Indy, it's going to be one of the biggest conference. I think it's going to break a record. I think they're expecting it to be the biggest conference in Juice Plus history. And that's becoming a theme as we are up to something as a company. And so I can assure you, rest assured, you can bank on this. When you come to conference, you will be sitting in the audience and you will be listening to a speaker and you will be wishing some person that you care about was there with you. And so the gap between now and then is really, that's kind of the conversation for this morning. I will tell you that not everyone in our business earns multiple 5 to 6 figures. Not everyone is signed up for that. The people on these calls regularly, generally, they're signed up for that. But everyone who earns multiple 5 and 6 figures is at our national conferences. Chances are everyone who earns multiple 5 and 6 figures is at your regional trainings. Chances are everyone who earns multiple 5 and 6 figures is at your boot camps. And, I don't need to look at my PVC chart to see who's producing. It's generally who's showing up for the show that generally correlates. So the big rocks in our business are those events. And if you don't have in your calendar, now's the time to calendar the fall regional, the winter regional, the boot camp, the 2 national conferences in the spring and the fall. That's where to start. And if you need dates and information, that's on you to go kind of hunt and peck and find those dates and get that stuff done. But all of my breakthroughs have occurred at boot camps, at regional trainings, at national conferences, all of my breakthroughs. So if you're looking for a breakthrough, if you're stuck, if you're struggling, this is how we recharge, we re-energize. And I can remember when Tony and I, our first couple, we were the only ones that came. We were just showing up. We were leading ourselves. We were showing up. The whole nature of events changes, as you well know, if you haven't been in this business long enough. When you come to events, it's one thing. The next chapter is when you start bringing a tribe, and you've got your little chickens, and you're kind of trying to manage them, and it's 5 or 6 or 7 of them, or 3 of them, or 2 of them. And then it gets to a place where it's a little bigger, and then you try to manage them. I can remember when we used to manage seats at conference, and it got overwhelming, and now we still try to do it. But now it's just like, we've got a big enough organization now. It's just like you're on your own. And so that evolution of events, and here's the thing about events. And I want to bring in Chip Donatone next to kind of speak to what experience that he had about creating events this summer. And I was talking to, I think Kristen Hilmer's on the call about events in her community, live in the Roaring Fork, and just being consistent and if you can deliver consistent quality conversations in your community, consistent quality over time will turn into something. It may start out as you're the only one showing up, and you're not in this business long enough until you schedule events and you have no-shows. I can remember Tony and I scheduling, home health parties, and, I can't count on 2 fingers how many no-shows we had where we corked a bottle of wine and just drank it ourselves because there was no show. But you haven't been in this business long enough until you've created an event, you've had no-shows. But if you want to create momentum, chances are if there's a lot of events going on in a community, you can always trace it back to a few leaders who took it on, who delivered consistent quality events that over time you wake up a year from now, 2 years from now, and that snowball has left the station. The Brits, really good example. There wasn't much going on in rural the United Kingdom and rural Britain, but some Holawati took it on, and they created events, and now there's momentum. Now it's the train has left the station, and you want to be a part of that. So Chip is a man in this business. We roll in a business that's 85% women, and we've been doing events through the summer, and he had an experience where he's had some JOB changes, and he really kind of poured all his heart and soul into promoting for an event that was on the lake at a cool restaurant, cool venue. It had all of the pieces that were just set up for success, and Chip took it on. I want you to share your story with everyone and kind of the learning that took place and how you're coming out of that, launching into the fall.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So ahead of this event, I had been talking with both Jeff and Dougie B here, and they'd kind of challenged me, like, what are you willing to do? You want to build this army of people that are doing this amazing mission that we have. What are you willing to do? And Doug floated a story past me that really kind of developed some of that inspiration for me. He said he and Mitra used to get thrown out of hotel lobbies because they were talking to people. And I really was inspired by that. It might sound crazy to some of you newbies, but I asked myself, what am I willing to do? So I created flyers and canvassed my entire neighborhood, knocking door to door. And I almost knocked on approximately about 300 doors, just short of that. And about 100 of those doors, somebody answered. And so I had a chance to invite them over to the event. And I wanted to invite so many people that I didn't spend a lot of time talking about what it is we were going to talk to. I was just trying to get them to the event. Well, to my surprise, out of 100 people that I talked to, nobody showed up. So I was a little taken back by that, I have to admit. But I do have some pretty amazing takeaways from that. Number one, that was really my cold market. Okay, none of these people knew me ahead of time. And so, if you're going to invite your cold market into what it is that we're doing, what our mission, your expectations have to be realistic. It's probably not 1 in 10. It may be more like 1 in 100. But does that mean that we shouldn't do it? The answer is no. That's not what that means. There are some people on this call and on this team that have joined this mission and this journey that were somebody's cold market. okay? And so it is worth doing. You just have to have realistic expectations that the number of people that you're going to talk to and that are going to respond are going to be much smaller than your warm market. So number two is takeaway is that the number of seeds that I planted, okay? So these people, now I told them who I was. I told them I was a neighbor. It was amazing how disarming that was when I knocked on the door. And now they know they have somebody in the neighborhood that is it is about health and wellness. So they can seek me out, or I can have follow-up conversations with some of those that were more interested. But I have to tell you the one thing, and this is not a surprise to Jeff Olson because he's been tugging on me to do this for a while. When you talk to that many people, guess what? You get really good at talking. When I first started knocking on doors, I fumbled over my words somewhat, wasn't crystal clear on what I was going to say. Boy, but at the end of day 6, I have to tell you, I was clear and concise. I was confident in what I was going to say. I was pretty much ready for any questions they had. And it was amazing the personal growth that I had in doing that. So, you know, do I recommend it? Yes, I do. The positives outweigh the negatives. Just make sure you're realistic about any expectations that you're going to have 100 people show up to your event when you're talking to your cold market.
Thank you, Chip. So I wanted to, Josh Chronister, if you want to just unmute yourself for just a moment. This is a new Gen Zer that just joined the tribe. He's 23 years old. He graduated with a degree in digital marketing and advertising. So we've been brainstorming on how to use, you know, that medium to promote for events and get butts and seats ultimately to a webinar, to a conference call, to an event. And he's got a lot of ideas. And so we're going to mix his new school ideas with maybe some experience from the silverback here, the old guy. But again, it's just how do you use social media then as a tool to promote for events? And so Josh, maybe just introduce yourself real quick. Just share your quick story in a couple minutes on how you came to, as a 23-year-old, you know, network marketing came into your space, and then how you activated with us here for a few minutes. And then we're going to, I've got a couple activities for folks, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, sounds good. What's up, everyone? My name is Josh. Good to meet you guys. Glad to be here. So a little bit about myself is I grew up in Pennsylvania. Started taking Juice Plus as a kid. My mom was giving it to me. At that time, I wasn't a huge fan of it because it didn't have a lot of sugar in it. You know, as a little kid, my mom's forced me this stuff. Eventually kind of grew out of it. But my mom met Jeff in New York City through an event, and that's how they know each other and kind of how we're connected. But fast forward, went to college, graduated from Liberty University, and then had the opportunity to move out here to Colorado, to Denver. Currently, I work for Enterprise. And I'm working like 50 hours a week. And I knew as a kid, I really didn't want to be in the corporate scene working 9 to 5. And, I was kind of looking for ways to create my own thing and build my own business. I had another network marketing person come up to me randomly one day when I was in Whole Foods and kind of introduced what's called Amway to me. Went to an event and saw that it wasn't really for me because I wasn't really passionate about what they were selling. Eventually I went back to my mom and I was like, you know, what do you think I should do? And she introduced me to Jeff Olson through Facebook. Funny how those connections from like 15 years ago can turn into something. So Jeff Olson and I met up one day, a couple weeks ago, actually at Whole Foods. And we've been meeting up on consistently every week. And last week I decided, to join the mission and to become a business owner. So it's a little bit about me.
Welcome. Yeah. Welcome, Josh. And you guys are going to get a chance to see him in Indy, but I met his mom at an event 10 years ago, and she remembers the conversation we had. A conversation is an event, and you are one person away from making a difference. And so we met at an event, Josh's mom, and she remembers that conversation. And 10 years later, she saw me on social media over the years, and she said, I enjoy how you post. It's not in your face. I like the way you roll, essentially. And she just remembers me, and she connected me to her son. So never underestimate the power of events to meet people. They don't have to be Juice Plus events. They can be networking events. They can be just any kind of event. We're in the business of meeting people, being great with people. And she remembers that conversation from a decade ago. I don't know if you want to have anything to say about events, Dougie, but Dougie, are you there? Dougie? Sounds like we lost him. Sounds like he's on adventures on the sea. But if I can impart anything,
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here. I just had to manage my unmuting with *6.
No. So we're headed into Indy, Dougie. We're headed into Indy. It's going to be a blowout, biggest conference ever. We're going to have great Thursday morning training. Over the last 20-some years, what have you found are some top things for people to focus on in promoting for the big show in Indy coming up? And I've got a few things to share after you speak.
Sure. Well, I just want to acknowledge Chip for, taking on what I'm sure there's people on this call, probably 90% of the people on this call are like, that is not what I signed up in this business to do. That is crazy. Knocking on doors at people you don't even know. Like, I am not a cold market. That's a salesman's job. And what I wanted to ask Chip is, okay, Chip, so maybe that didn't produce the yield, but can you just in a sentence or two comment on the energy? Okay, so maybe that didn't yield what you wanted it to yield. Back in the day, Joy Kelly and I we had a game where we would play for 50. We had to get an answer 50 times. We had to get 50 answers. We had to either get a yes or a no. And it didn't matter whether they were 50 no's or 45 no's, but we had to make enough calls till we could get 50, we could answer the question 50 times a week. And while people say, oh, well, did you get any rock stars from that? And I'll share my answer, but Chip, tell me, what did that activity do in terms of the rest of your business?
Yeah, Doug, it's personal growth for me. I'm telling you, I could have never imagined doing that a handful of years ago. But the fact is, it just kind of takes the top off in my mind, what I'm willing to do and how this mission resonates with me, that I find it so important that I'm willing to share it with complete strangers. It pours an energy into me, I have to tell you.
Gotcha.
So it's beneficial, for me going forward, because I'm just, like I said, there's no limits now.
Right. And you didn't burn off any super hot prospects because you didn't know anyone.
Yeah. And no limbs fell off of me. I didn't lose an eye.
Yeah.
I mean, no long-term damage happened.
Well, and for me, people would always ask, what did it do for you? And that wasn't all I did. We have a saying called all out massive action, ALMA. And so, we did everything. We talked to strangers. We reverse mailed. There are so many ways for you to reach out. And of course, today social media is the big hammer, and, hats off if you can manage that and you want to mine social media. But it's no different than me making 50 calls. It's no different than Chip knocking on 100 doors. But what it did do is it created an energy about me that whether those people were saying yes or no, it didn't matter, because my phone was ringing off the hook because there was all this other activity going on. I mean, our network, you can go as wide as you want. And if you talk to as many people as possible, whether it's 3-footing, there's a million ways. And if you need to know more about how do you talk to more people, let me know. But what it did do, that energy, I presented an aura around myself where people were like, I don't know what that guy's doing, but I want to get part of that. So I just shared that, in terms of events, reaching out to people, inviting. It's like your kid wanting an ice cream cone. Can I have the ice cream cone? No. Can I have it now? No. And then till finally one day you just go, you know what? If I give you an ice cream cone, will you stop asking me? And then you realize, wow, that was the best thing I could have done. And you never know what those people do. So that's my experience of events and it's never too late. We have 6 weeks to Indianapolis. You will meet people 1 week before the event. And if you have been, if your image brain is working, if you've been doing meditation around attracting who you want in this business, you never know who's going to show up the week before Indianapolis. And you have to ask the question, hey, how would you like to come to Indianapolis with me? Because you'll be amazed that if you start practicing now, and if you do 3 ways to invite your important people, or if you just invite strangers, you'll never know what's going to come out of it. And I also just was curious from Josh, Josh, if you're still on the line, do you have like, so you said, yes, you came into this business, but what is it that you are doing as a brand new person to kick this business off so that you can put your best foot forward and kind of manage the numbers, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, to kind of, you know, make sure that like in 6 months time, you fast track to sales coordinator, or, you know, on your way to senior sales coordinator, but do you have a game plan for what you're doing as a new person with this, you know, degree in social media marketing?
Yeah, so actually yesterday I started an email newsletter. Something I posted yesterday on my personal page was a video kind of launching my business, letting people know, you know, this is what I'm doing now, this is why I started it, and this is why I want you guys to follow along so I can teach you guys to do the exact same thing. So part of what this monthly newsletter of what I'm doing, it's going to incorporate what I love to do: travel, live a healthy lifestyle, and teach other people how to do the same thing. So this newsletter is kind of for people to follow along and get a deeper understanding of what it's like to be an entrepreneur and as well as a health food agent. And then on social media, I post a couple times a week about my journey, about the freedom that having your own business create, as well as the products through Use Plus, you know, the tablets, as well as the complete shakes. So just getting the word out and showing people, you know, that this stuff works and that it's incredible. So.
Yeah, and I'll close with, I just want to emphasize the long-term game. Everybody wants to have immediate success in this business, but let's face it, when you first start swinging the bat as Chip did, wow, you know, he struck out 100 times, but it doesn't matter because Chip he's just not in it for the first and second inning. He's going to go 9 innings. He's going to go 15 rounds. So all this activity that you do, you know, you want to figure out how to keep track, add them to the email newsletter, add them to your social media list, put them on LinkedIn, you know, start building this database of people, because as you just heard from Josh, 10 years later, his mom called Jeff, and you know, you think Jeff was happy that he maintained that relationship? Maybe how much time did Jeff put into it? Maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10, maybe a half hour over 10 years. And now it's yielded him somebody who's really gung-ho, and we're looking forward to kind of, you know, observing your success and supporting you and your mission as well, Josh. So that's me, Oli. Thanks for letting me chime in.
Sounds good. Let me just wrap up by saying, you know, the invitation here is so I give you permission to maybe take on a radical tactical shift in your mindset about bringing a tribe to Indy. I can see people on this call today who've come to some national conferences solo. The game changes when you bring someone. It can be one, it can be two, it can be whoever. But if you've been to national conferences on your own, the invitation is the radical tactical shift is, who can I get there? I would also invite you to consider bringing someone else into the conversation, whether it's me or Dougie or Mitra or someone you admire. Then we can get out, you know, in a Zoom or in a call and ask. And here's what I do. Here's what Mitra is the master Jedi at. She'll get on a 3-way call, and she's done this with several people I can see on this call, and she will ask for permission to be unreasonable. And who doesn't give you permission to be unreasonable if you ask? And then say, you know what, take a flyer. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You're going to come to Indy. You're going to have, you know, some good food, some good wine, some good, you know, interaction. You're going to learn something about being an entrepreneur. And that's the worst thing that can happen. But Mitra is the master at bringing in a third-party conversation and then getting people to fly in the face of rationality. Like, people will present the evidence as to why they can't come. I can't afford it. I don't have any time. I can't get time off. I got to manage my kids, you know, blah, 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 blah. And in the face of all that evidence, which is probably very rational, you know, it's human nature to just take a flyer and do something completely irrational. And maybe a third party can help bring in kind of that unreasonable conversation to your crew and say, you know what? I can actually take a flyer for a long weekend and go experience something, because what if this is real? You know, and we all are on this call because someone opened their mouth and was cause and invited them to something. Behavior change is hard. I'll leave you with this. Behavior change is the hardest thing that we as humans have to deal with. And there's two fundamental ways that it changes: by conditioning and training, which is kind of the affirmation conditioning, lather, rinse, repeat, do it over 10,000 hours, conditioning, conditioning, conditioning. And then an immersive experiential thing, an emotional experiential boom. And that only occurs at sort of destination events where you take yourself out of you and your tribe get out of your environment, out of your noise, out of your little bubble, and go and unplug and come in a new environment. And as I said, all my breakthroughs have come from that immersive experience of 2 to 3 days. And I can assure you, you will be at conference in Indy wishing you had stepped up your game a little bit and been a little bit unreasonable and got others to the events. As Jeff Roberti says, it's butts and seats. So with that, I'll leave it there. I do want to close, and we're going to stop the recording here for a moment.